Well, good afternoon, everyone. There's just my presentation and one more before we get to lunch. I hope you can stay with us for another 25 minutes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Farzam Sapanta, and as Zachary said, I'm going to present results on the sustainability of telework. Particularly in this session, I'm going to answer two questions. Do teleworkers buy bigger homes, or do they acquire new cars when they start teleworking? I'm presenting on behalf of the team and my supervisor, Professor Liam O'Brien, which a lot of you know him. I'll be starting with introduction, some early assumptions about telework. I'll go for the research question, then I will start with the methods, the survey design, participants, and the statistical analysis that we did. So not a lot of energy results today, but mostly statistical results. And then we are going to talk about home size and relocation, and car ownership and relocation, and some main takeaways for you from this session. But in general, what is telework? Telework is technically working anywhere out of your conventional office to get your job done. Now, if you're a painter, you really don't need ICT, but according to the official definition of telework, you are supposed to be using ICT to get your job done. But when you are teleworking, and for example, you're a painter, you really do not need ICT to get your job done. You can just paint and without any need. But what makes telework complicated is that some people like to be sustainable. When they start teleworking, they go into nice neighborhoods, which everything is around them, grocery stores are around them, nice restaurants are around them, their friends are around them, and they have a nice community. They can walk to everywhere. They get a smaller home, they get a sustainable home, they have nice thermostat set points, night schedule, morning schedule, afternoon schedule for the thermostat, right? And they really do not use a lot of ICT, and they do not become internet intensive when they are using it. That would be a sustainable case. But on the other hand, some people prefer to be moving outside of the urban areas. They like to go to remote areas. They like to enjoy some nature activities. They get a Hummer to just go off-roading, right? All those increases the emissions. These are known as rebound effects. That makes the study on telework and sustainability of telework really complicated because we are dealing with humans, right? And each one of us has really different preferences. Bigger cars, bigger homes, nicer homes, smaller homes, efficient homes, right? Everything is different. But for today, we're going to think about two assumptions that we mainly have. The first one is that if you start teleworking, you're probably going to need a home office, right? And a home office means probably extra room for you or some more space. More space means extra ventilated area in your homes, and then that means higher emission rates, right? Same with cars. If you decide to relocate, you probably go to a remote area, or you go to a more affordable neighborhood, or you just move to somewhere that is nicer in your opinion, maybe a waterfront mansion, right? And for that, especially in colder climates like Canada, there is a lot of problem because the snow is going to be a big problem. You need probably a Ford F-150 to get around, right? Because the snow is really heavy. So that makes you more car dependent, especially if you move away from urban centers, right? But who cares, right? I might want to get a bigger home, and I like to have my Hummer, or I like to have my Ford, right? What happens? The big problem is that with that extra ventilated space, you're going to put more emission out there. You make yourself more car dependent if you're not conscious about your decision, and you're also going to put more emissions out there. But is it true? Is it true that all teleworkers are going to get bigger homes because now they can do it, they can work remotely, and they prefer to just move away, right? Or is it true that they will get bigger cars to just navigate the different landscapes that they're having? That's what we're going to test today and to see if it's correct or not. Technically, we're going to quantify the overall spectrum of the research is quantifying the impact of telework in terms of emissions and energy use in 4 domains of homes, offices, transportation, and the internet. For today's session, it's an early snapshot of the survey that we designed, and we are just focusing on the home section and transportation, relocation, and car ownership. We technically are working with TBS, Treasury Board of Canada. The research is going to inform the Canadian government's return to office policy for the public workers. And we designed a survey with 4 main areas: transportation, homes, offices, and the internet. But for these results, we are going to just talk about demographics, home-related questions, and transportation-related questions. We designed the survey. The survey was sent to PSPC, Public Services and Procurement Canada, CRH, Canadian Revenue Agency, and TBS, Treasury Board of Canada. And we got back about 5,600 responses back from the public employees, and that's way more than enough that we needed. Our sample size was 384 for a 95% confidence interval and a margin error for 5%, so that's way more than enough the results that we needed. But telework in general is a very context-based topic, so we need to first look at the demographics that we were dealing with, especially as the Canadian government made it possible for its employees to work in hybrid models and provided a lot of exceptions for their remote workers, including many different sectors that I probably cannot disclose right now due to confidentiality issues. So 25% were working remote in the federal government according to the demographics that we have, 72% are working as hybrid, and about only 2% in person. So as you can see, we don't like to work in person, nobody likes to go to offices. But here's the first results that we have. Home size and work arrangements. If you are a teleworker, are you going to get a bigger home? Our statistical analysis shows that there's a very weak reverse correlation, meaning that if you start teleworking, you're probably living in a smaller home. But take that with a grain of salt because the number is very close to zero, so that's a very weak correlation, right? It's not necessarily correct, it's very weak. That's number one, so you're not going to get a bigger home. It means that you're not probably going to be more emissions out there, but it makes sense also because there's much more involved. Affordability, income, the size of your family, all those are important factors that we could not collect due to confidentiality issues associated with the federal employees. The second test was that if you move closer to your office, or you do not relocate, or you move farther from your office, is there going to be a difference between the home size of teleworkers or not? So that does not impact your home size as well, right? It's not really related, moving away at your home sizes. The next question was that for these three groups that I just described, are they going to get bigger cars? Are they going to have more cars? Is there going to car ownership, is it going to increase or not? And the results shows that if you move closer, you're fine, you don't need it. If you move to your office because it's probably in an urban center in the NCR region or National Capital Region of Canada, in Ottawa and Gatineau, you're moving closer, you probably don't need anything, everything is within walking distance for you. But if you move farther, you are going to probably have a car, and the car ownership chances increases, right? Now, if you apply the Bonferroni correction, it's not significant, but we know the Bonferroni correction, that's significant, that's something we can talk about later on. And this graph shows that people who move closer, they normally have 0 cars, the number increases. The people who move farther, as you can see, they become really car dependent, and at least a lot of them have 1 car. Moving on, the question is, we are living in the National Capital Region. Some of those farthest urban centers or neighborhoods are almost 40 kilometers away from Ottawa, right? Ottawa is the capital of Canada, and this is where technically most public employees are. And our results show that if you are going to move from 0 to 40 kilometers away from your office, you are going to be more car dependent. But if you move beyond 40 kilometers, you are no longer car dependent. And the reason is if you probably move to Toronto and you don't need your car, nobody likes to take his car downtown Toronto, you have to pay $100 for the parking, right? So, because it's a regional specific thing, within a 40 kilometer proximity, you are going to be more car dependent in Ottawa because on Pryor, which is one of the farthest city, a lot of people love to live there, it's about 40 kilometers away. On the Quebec side, Aylmer is about just 40 kilometers away. Now, before I jump to the conclusion and give you the main takeaways, I'd like to first introduce the limitations and considerations because that's the important thing and that really impacts the results. The studies on telework are very regional specific because emissions are a big impact factor. If you're doing it in a different country or a different province, it's going to be different. Even how you get electricity from grid is going to impact you. For example, Ontario receives a lot of its electricity from the United States, right? And the cleanness of that grid is going to impact your emissions. Second one, we have some coarse home size ranges. We did not go 10 by 10 square meters. We had the ranges that was actually used in most of the federal surveys and census surveys. And the last one is that there's a lot of other social aspects involved in these findings, and we could not ask our participants those questions because of confidentiality issues, and the federal government was not interested for its employees to disclose those information. But for that, we're coming to the conclusion. The conclusion is that if you start teleworking, you're probably not getting a bigger home, so you can comfortably start teleworking without worrying about getting a bigger home, but if you're going home tonight, make sure that you buy a lottery ticket, because if you win the $70 million tonight, you're probably going to get a bigger home. That's a more important factor compared to starting teleworking or not. But the second one, the main takeaway, is that when you start teleworking, you probably are not getting a bigger home either, because you are really not going for that office space. There are other factors impacting you. Out of all these people, 12% relocated. So if you are organizational strategist or someone who works in the industry, always remember that if you make teleworking possible for your employees, there's a good chance that a large chunk of your employees are going to move farther away. And the last one is that if you're in Ottawa, in that particular region, if you're relocating within a 40-kilometer proximity, your car ownership is going to increase. The probability of your car ownership is going to increase significantly. With that being said, that's all from me. Thank you so much for your attention.